So you may or may not have realised that I haven't made a video in a while, and whilst I'd like to tell you it's because I fell into a pit of despair where I lost all sense of self-motivation and esteem, that wouldn't compel you to fantasize about what it would be like to be my friend or project yourself onto me like a real YouTuber might have you do. So instead, in order to sow the seeds for some thematic payoff as well as keeping this video R-rated, the R standing for relatable, I'll just say that I've been binge watching. Now you might be thinking that the concept of binge watching is a relatively new thing introduced by your Netflixes, Hulus and YouTube Red, but in actuality binge watchers have existed for years, but they were outsiders, deviants, people with nowhere to go and no one to see. Nowadays though, there's a camaraderie to binge watching. It's celebrated. People tell you things like, my life might be falling apart, but at least I watched every episode of Stranger Things in a single day, and then look at you as if you should be throwing them a small parade, or at the very least should have bought them one of those cute little muffins with a sparkler on top. My question is though, why is it now of all times that TV has elevated to this higher level of importance in all of our lives? Because it's been around for quite a while now, since dinosaur times, probably the Cretaceous period at the latest. Is nobody slightly skeptical? Is nobody slightly worried about how many of our conversations are starting off with the words, have you seen the new episode of? I have a theory, right, that during 2016, the government started using TV as a way to distract us from some of the bigger issues at hand. Because think about it, our awareness of racial tension was the highest it's ever been. The political climate was as dysfunctional as my parents' relationship. Harambe has still not been avenged. I just substituted an actual joke for a vapid meme that's as dead as the gorilla it originates from, because exasperating humour is what comedy is all about. All I'm saying is, maybe if we were as enthusiastic about talking to people with different opinions than us as we were talking about, say, last season's Game of Thrones, maybe we wouldn't have a humanoid cheese sandwich as president. I think I should make it clear that I am just joking about the whole conspiracy theory thing, kind of, because honestly I think TV is just an effective way of escaping some of the pressures of the outside world. But what happens when the thing that we're actually trying to escape is ourselves? What a great episode of Insert Most Relevant TV Show here. Now all I have to do is wait for 15 blissful, anxiety-less seconds and we'll be on to the next one.
Or, instead, you could tell me about all the ways that you're a failure and how you'll never be good enough.
Everyone is way more talented than me. I feel like I have a hard time introducing myself to people because I'm not proud of who I am. As hopeless as humanity seems right now, the other day I saw a man giving out sweets to children from the back of a van, so there are some good people left in the world. I think anxiety, at its core, is a pathological refusal to not know the outcomes of infinite possibilities, but if it could just go away, that would be great. Nah, but like, why is my upload schedule as undefined as my jawline? Sorry to kinda break the fourth wall here, but I went for a run like 3 months ago, and I just wanted you to know. Why do I push the people that care about me the most the furthest away? Whenever I need to check my ego, I just remember that my reflection in a black screen is my actual true form. Life is one big distraction and then you die. So before I continue with the narrative part of this video, I should probably say that I've been trying to make this video for months. And even this part of the video at one point was scripted. It no longer is, as you can probably tell by my stuttering. And then I tried to use bullet points after kind of scrunching up the script and being like, well, this isn't good. Yeah, I tried to use bullet points, but then I was trying to meticulously weave everything together and it just came off as super unnatural. And so instead I thought, let's just wing it, you know. Nobody else is putting effort into their video. I'm kidding. People are putting effort. I just wanted to be a part of the crowd and be like, I feel like there was going to be a lot more expository stuff to kind of put in this like mini outside the narrative and then back into the narrative thing, but I can't remember what that is, so we'll just swiftly move on, shall we? So I should probably talk about what exactly that whole part of the video was, and it was basically a dramatization of something that started happening to me a few months ago, where I was sleeping all day and then waking up at night, and then proceeding to watch an ungodly amount of films and TV shows for hours on end. And when I initially started to do this, behind where I had my computer propped up, there was a mirror, and so as the sun would start to come up in the morning, as it tends to do, I would occasionally catch glimpses of my own reflection that would trigger this influx of existential dread. My own reflection would look back at me like, you have one chance to live your life, and is this really what you want to be doing? But then as soon as the next episode's intro music kicked in, it was forget about it, you know what I mean? Who needs a fulfilling life when you can watch Community, you know what I mean? And so I continued to do that for a while, and it was enjoyable right up until it wasn't anymore, which brings us to the crux of this video, I guess the most salient question that I wanted to get to, which was basically that at what point does escapism stop being escapism? Because for me, I wasn't even enjoying it anymore. Like, I almost fell into this like poetic irony where I felt trapped doing the thing that was supposed to allow me an escape. Wow, so profound. I know, I've been meditating on top of mountains with monks, alright. I guess the most important part, like, if you hadn't guessed by it, alright, that's condescending. I'm sorry, I'm sure you're a very intelligent person. I don't know who you are personally, but I'll just assume that. Alright, okay. The binge-watching TV aspect of this video isn't even really that important. Spoiler alert. Layton, it's not my name, you know, it's Layton Chronicles. My last name is actually Chronicle. Okay, that was a dumb joke. It's barely even a joke if we're being real. But what is real? I'm fucking done. So TV within this video, I suppose, is very much interchangeable. Is it a metaphor? Do I mean it literally? It can be anything. I think sometimes it can be anything that allows you like some form of escapism, basically. And it just so happens that my version that I fell into for escapism happened to be TV. And I think the reason as to why that is because I'm a neurotic person. And so TV essentially gives me the one thing that I know I can't really have, and I think a lot of us probably are looking for, which is sense, by which I mean to make sense of the world, I suppose. Or rather, to make sense of things. Let me give you an example. To be precise, let me give you three. When it comes to TV almost very idealistically works in the way that we wish the world did sometimes, by which I mean in TV, the good characters, or the good will prevail over evil, whereas in real life we know that that isn't always the case. TV has rules and structure and narrative, whereas our own lives often are more like these amorphous blobs that we can only really start to make sense of once we've molded them and shaped them in a very particular way. TV will always be there for you, you know. TV never goes back on its wedding vows or files for a divorce, even though she's the one that cheated on you and then takes full custody of the kids because apparently you lack consistency. I don't need consistency, I'm a person of fucking custard. Now that we're at the after school special / moral part of the video, the bit that I send you off to school and pat you on your little back with and be like, now you're smarter and can go into the world and fend for yourself with words. I mean, try not against like a lion or something, but I don't know, what are you doing fighting lions in the first place? You know you're a fragile little being. So morals, I guess there's two, kind of 2.5, but we'll see where we go. We get wild up in the Layton Chronicle. I mean, we did, but then I took a year off. We'll talk about it at some point, probably. I guess the title for moral number 1 would be to unplug, because I think in times where we reach a time of difficulty, it can be very we can be very impulsive and try to run away from it or pretend that it's not actually there, which isn't actually conducive to fixing the problem, and then you're just left at a blockade where you kind of reach this stage of arrested development until you're ready to face that thing, which can often be scary and difficult, but not as scary and perhaps difficult if you just leave it, I suppose, because the longer you leave it, the issue is probably going to get bigger and closer, and it'll just be a bad time. I'm sorry, I'll probably write some text on screen because what I'm saying isn't good. I just want to be an articulate boy, alright. And I think if the problem that we're trying to get through as well, if it's a part of the external world, which is to say it's kind of not out of our hands, but kind of not within us internally, I guess the best thing to do, because often if we're stuck at an issue, we kind of build it up to be a greater problem than it may actually be. So what you can probably try to do is cut that thing up into little smaller, tasty little, nibbly little, baby little issues or whatever, because then it's not as scary and you can just do it at your own pace, I suppose. And then if it's internal, then perhaps you may need to potentially talk to somebody about a problem that you're having internally, by which I mean probably more than likely like with your brain, because if your problem is external, at least you know there's like a tangible solution to it, whereas if it's brain stuff, it's very, again, like this amorphous, I don't know what I'm looking at here. It's very much one of those situations, so you may need somebody's assistance, whether that means professional assistance or just a friend to talk to try to work yourself out. That'll probably come in handy, you know what I mean? Because otherwise you'll just be in this state of arrested development, this blockade in which you're just like, oh, I'm sad and I don't know what to do, so let me just go into a form of consume this escapism, I suppose, is what I'm saying. And then on the back of the unplug thing, I think if you're a creative person or want to be a creative person, if you're just constantly in pursuit of consumption, that isn't conducive to creating your own things, because a lot of the time when you're trying to create something, sometimes you'll have ideas that will come to you in when you're being solitary, so when you're in like the shower or something, or just by yourself, and have time for your brain to do brain things, I suppose. I'm so upset. And so if you're constantly consuming things, you never really have that time, and you won't come up with anything new, I suppose. To use an analogy, if we are all baby cows, right, and a piece of art is a big cow, we will probably go to that big cow and it'll just suckle on its nice little creative teat. We'll probably be going to different cows, but we won't tell that cow, because then the cow will be upset. We're going to different cows, we're consuming their creative things, and then we're growing up into our own big cow. And the best thing that can happen is that other baby cows will look to us and want to suckle on our nice teats. This is a really weird analogy, but let's go with it. But yeah, if you just continue to suck on the teat, on the nip of the other cows, then you probably won't be making things. Does that make barely? Basically, you drink from cows and then you can become a big cow and make your own thing, and then people will drink from that, and you would have contributed to creating things in the world instead of increasing entropy and collapse, because you're putting back into the world as opposed to just taking from it. There we go, that's the point that we're making. Got him. I'm so upset. And then I guess moral number 2 somewhat is what I'm going to be referring to as live your life, queen. When we become stagnant in our own lives, what we can sometimes tend to do is grab onto the lives of other people, and those people can be real or fictitious, or like a multitude of other descriptors, I suppose. And that can say, watching their stories unfold and have resolve can satiate us, because it's like, oh, a win for them is a win for me, literally me, blah blah blah. But consuming their story can only satiate you so much. It's kind of like this IV drip of mediocrity that doesn't quite bring you fulfillment or happiness, but it's preventing you from crippling depression, you know? So you're in this in-between phase. You're in this in-between area, which is great somewhat. I think they can be motivating, but to get your life shouldn't consist purely of other people's, I suppose, their narratives. You should have your own narrative. I guess what I'm saying is, in a way, to be a fake deep is I guess you need to be the protagonist of your own life, because again, nothing will be as compelling a story to you as your own story. I guess to try and summarize this entire video, I would say that
life moves pretty fast.
if you wait around for your sense of fulfillment instead of making it happen, you could miss it. It's trying to distract us from some of the bigger issues at hand. Oh, it was too slow. Nowadays, though, there's a camaraderie to be. Oh, there's something in my eye. It's sadness. Oh, that's too real. That's one. We out here. We out here like homeless people, because I am. It's almost as if we're more willing to talk about fiction than we are non-fiction, but with all the fake news running around, who can tell what's fictitious and what isn't? Alright. I hate... Do you ever just want to kill yourself? Too real. Too real. But maybe a dose of real is what this generation needs. Okay. I have a theory, right? Ooh, daddy, that was tasty.